Welcome to today's episode of the Middle Podcast. I want to go through some headlines with you. But first, I have something on my mind. You know, Donald Trump has been escalating his rhetoric recently. He called his political enemies vermin to try to dehumanize them as fascists. I mean, there's no question in my mind that he's a fascist. So he is using this rhetoric to try to dehumanize his political opponents, to dehumanize humans who immigrated here illegally. It's very scary to me that he's even leading in the polls. I get it, it's a year out. Shouldn't be scared, we shouldn't be panicking. But it just goes to show that people kind of like fascists. People liked Hitler. Not to compare. But people did like Hitler in Germany. People liked Mussolini. These were popular guys. These weren't people that took over without the popular support of the people of their countries. Recently, he's been proposing putting illegal immigrants into concentration camps, sounds like, before they are deported. He's going to start the largest deportation. I mean, that's... Besides the fact that illegal immigrants are less likely to do crimes than people who are here legally or non-immigrants. So, look, I don't know what we should do about the illegal immigrants in our country. But they're humans. They're not here. The vast majority of them are not here to do crimes. They're just here to start a new life in a new country. And it's very difficult to immigrate legally. There's waiting lists for years. So if you want to take care of the illegal immigration problem in our country, you have to make it easier to immigrate legally. That's, in my mind, those two things are linked. Now, the anti-immigrant rhetoric that Trump is saying, in my mind, should be chasing away the Latino and Hispanic voters. But it doesn't. He's gaining the polls among those groups. And if you'll ask a Latino why they support Trump, they'll tell you because Trump only hates illegal immigrants. I mean, this, for me, the way I see it, illegal immigrants, it's just a dog, just a hint. What they really hate is these, he says that these illegal immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Now, I think the blood of an illegal immigrant is any different than the blood of a legal immigrant from that same country. No, usually I have confidence in the American system. I lost a lot of it in 2016, but the 2020 and the fact that Trump's attempted coup failed. Wins goes to show that democracy is not as strong as, it's not as good of a solution to fascism as you would think it is, because all his dictatorial tendencies are right now out in the open more than they have ever been. They're out there for people to see. The things that he's saying, the vermin comments, the poisoning the blood, all very, very similar to white supremacist, fascist type speech. It's for me, it's unthinkable to vote for Trump, even if you hate Joe Biden's guts. Joe Biden is not going to destroy our democracy. Biden's not going to weaponize the Justice Department against a whole laundry list of people that Trump wants to prosecute after he gets into office. If he gets into office, which I hope he won't. Biden hasn't been doing that as much as Trump wants to has. The Justice Department has been prosecuting Democrats. Menendez, for example. Hunter Biden is a grand jury probe right now, and that's the president's own son. So you would think if he was able to weaponize the Justice Department, you'd think that investigation would be long gone. As you know, if it was Trump's son, that investigation would have been gone. He would have a pardon. So let's get into the top stories for today. Sunday, November 19th. The IDF released a video in which it shows a tunnel underneath Al-Shifa Hospital. In this hospital, by the way, remains 250 patients, though much of the hospital's patients evacuated the hospital. Israel is trying to evacuate the hospital to avoid civilian casualties. Actually, I have some mildly good news. In the negotiations to free the hostages in Gaza, the Israeli hostages taken brutally by Hamas. A deal, the news organizations are reporting that the deal is inching closer, though it's not finalized. So that's good news, as long as we get the hostages released. Trump today gave a speech near the U.S.-Mexico border where the scumbag governor endorsed him for the 2024 presidential nomination, Greg Abbott. So, by the way, speaking of the U.S.-Mexico border issue, Trump got a very, very friendly interview on Univision, the largest television program, or the largest television network for Spanish-speaking people in America. Very friendly interview, and they canceled previously scheduled ads for the Biden campaign. A lot of Latinos very upset about that. And our last story for today centers around an NBC News poll, which was released, showing just devastating numbers for President Biden. And we'll discuss that in our next segment. Here's the deal.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
And here's the deal.
Because here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
Let's talk about the crisis at the border. Here's the deal. First of all,
So NBC News released the poll showing not only Biden losing Trump in a general election poll. It is within the margin of error, I should note. He is losing by 2 points. Trump gets 46% of the vote, and Biden gets 44%. Mr. Undecided. Now, Biden holds advantages over Trump among black voters, which is 70% to 20%, which is actually a surprising amount for black voters. Women, but only 52%, way down from what it used to be. And white voters with college degree, but only 51% to 40%. Trump, on the other hand, wins among white voters, actually lower than I expected, 53%. Men, 55%. And rural voters, which is 58%. And most notably, Trump is winning among young voters. 46 to 42%. Now, I should note that Biden's probably doing very bad among young voters, probably because of his support for Israel, which I 100% agree with his support for Israel. And I don't want him to do anything different about Israel. Nothing. And if he loses because of his support for Israel, it will have been worth it. Because you have to stand up for what's right. What's right is fighting Hamas, fighting terror, fighting against the perpetrators of Israel's not only 9/11, but Israel's 10 9/11s. 10 times the proportion of 9/11. It's just the slaughter and the people's amnesia about the slaughter. No, and it has a lot to do with social media. A lot of it. Right now on social media, you can find on TikTok there's support for Bin Laden. Osama Bin Laden. There's support for him now on TikTok. That's where our young voters are being exposed to their information. They're all on TikTok. We're all getting information that Israel is doing a genocide. Do these people know what genocide even means? I would challenge them to pick up a dictionary and read the definition and try to explain to me how trying to defeat Hamas is genocide. They're not trying to kill out the Palestinian people. They're trying to kill out a terror group of murderers and rapists. And to me, this is the most abominable thing about this war, is what we found out what people really believe. You know, I thought Democrats, they supported Jews, everyone, thought they were just pro. And look, it's not all Democrats, but 51% of Democrats in this poll said Israel went too far in fighting against Hamas. And 70% of young people disapprove of how Biden has been supporting Israel. 70%. 70. It's outrageous. It's just despicable. And it's because, I don't want to say this, but I will. Because of what the colleges are teaching these students, these professors are teaching them that these killings are just resistance. But there are some bright spots for Biden in this poll. I like to highlight those also. I like to look at positive news and negative news. In this poll, Trump's standing in this poll has not gained. It's not went up really. It's been staying the same at around 45-46%. While it actually has been Biden whose standing has went down. What it means is that people aren't really switching from Biden to Trump. they're switching from Biden to undecided. And we know historically that undecided usually doesn't make up their mind when election day gets closer. And that's why, polling at this point is not indicative of the results of the election. Also, let's keep in mind Trump has 4 criminal trials scheduled for next year. Actually, 3 criminal trials scheduled for next year. One has not. The Georgia trial has not been scheduled yet. And any conviction in any of those trials, I'm especially keeping an eye on the Washington, D.C. insurrection trial, could very well spell electoral death for Trump at the ballot. Because in these polls, when they're asked how would they change their mind if Trump were convicted, in all those polls, after a conviction, Trump was losing after he got convicted, which, it's not salvation. It's not salvation for Democrats. It's just a hopeful sign, This has been Here's the Deal. Here's a new segment we're going to be doing every night to cover Trump's legal trouble. We haven't thought of a name for it yet, so let's just get started. So, just going to give you a quick overview of what's going on. Trump right now is on trial in New York, in a civil trial, for business practices, which the prosecution said that, or the plaintiffs, because it's not a criminal trial, said that Attorney General Letitia James said Trump devalued and overvalued his assets at will, literally. The actual value had nothing to do with what he put down on paper. And the judge already ruled that he committed fraud. The question that's at trial is how much money he's going to pay for the fraud that the judge already ruled that he committed. In Georgia, District Attorney Fani Willis is requesting a trial date for Trump and his, I have no idea how many co-defendants is. A bunch of them pleaded guilty. I think it's like 16, 15 co-defendants. She's proposing they go to trial August of 2024. And that's for Trump's alleged election interference in Georgia. And she says it's unlikely to be subject to a delay, meaning she's baking in all the delays that Trump will try to do before the trial. She also said that she does not think the case will end before the election. So we're going to have that, and it's also going to be a televised trial. So while the election is going to be happening, we're going to be having a trial of Donald Trump on television. And this could possibly be after 1 or 2 convictions, either in Washington, D.C., not either, but in Washington, D.C. and or in Florida for the classified documents case, which the judge over there, Eileen Cannon, Trump appointee, has been dragging her feet like crazy. On any sort of motions that the prosecution or the defense tries to file. It seems like she's kind of working for Trump, trying to delay the trial for him. I mean, it's pretty bad. So, that's all the news we're going to give to you today. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Follow this podcast if you could. And stay in the middle.